I think it's kind of like a little New Orleans, a little Charleston. I hear people come in every day that say, wow, I had no idea that this was so quaint, so cute. My name is Susan Campbell Hattler. I own Susan Campbell Jewelry. My husband and I started this business almost 8 years ago. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and we carry handmade designer quality jewelry from independent designers all over the country. I was born here, and we were in New Orleans during Katrina. So after that, we had to kind of make a quick change, and it was an obvious choice to move back to Pensacola, where my family is. We looked at the Kina House South, which is one of the oldest buildings in Pensacola, and it is not the museum. There's a museum next door, but the Kina House South is independently owned. And it was the right price. It was right near the park, that's Seville Square, and we just felt like it was a really good option for us to get started. It was about 10 years ago when, right after PYP got started, and there was that pull to bring people back to Pensacola. So it was exciting. We were one of the first young folks trying to get something started. I remember the first gallery night. It was the first day we opened, was on a gallery night, and we were absolutely slammed. Totally not ready for that many people to come into the store, but it was very successful, and it was a lot of fun. I was new to business, so I didn't really know what the right option was. I was also new to Pensacola. Even though I grew up here, I'd been gone for 15 years. So I didn't know that area was going to be different than Palafox. I didn't really understand the community and what was going on in the community at the time. I was just coming from New Orleans, where everything was fabulous and shopping on Saturdays was amazing, and there was all sorts of retail, and I guess I was a little naive at that point, and I thought it was a cute little area. I love the historic district. There's so much charm there. There's so much character. It felt like a good option, and it was for us. The price was right for us. It was a cute little area. It wasn't hard to build out. It was a good starter opportunity. The economy had a little downturn. And a lot of the businesses, there weren't many in the historic districts, but a lot of them started kind of closing. And it just seemed that it was time. I was pregnant at the time, and so there might have been a little bit of nesting going on. But we really did feel like moving down to Palafox would be a good idea. Shannon Pauline, who owns Fiore, was in this amazing space, and she was moving, so I happened to hear about it before it really went public, and she kind of called me and said, hey, I'm moving, and I said, well, I think that's a really good spot for me. It was right in between Jewelers Trade and Elabash, which are two very well-established jewelers. They've been around for, I think, 60 and 90 years, respectively, and it really made a lot of sense to put us in between two established jewelers and kind of be in Jewelry Row. We thought it was a good opportunity to really solidify the type of pieces that we have, that they were high-end pieces, they were well-crafted pieces. We moved from the place on Palafox to this location within the past month or so. That's been a big move for us, and I really feel at home in this little area. I think it's a really quaint and cozy community down here. Having a business is hard. Juggling a business and a family is a difficult situation. But I really enjoy it. I think it's good for my daughter to see me working. I think it's good for her to come in here and see, the goals that I have, and the team that I create with my employees. And she knows all the employees that I have, and she likes them too. She draws little pictures of everybody sometimes, and it's really cute. I think it's really good to have that cultural community right at our fingertips. I've always lamented, in the past, I've lamented not going to a bigger city with much more culture. But now I see that I have that here, and I have that for her, and I have that for our family. And it's a good thing. 10 years ago when we moved here, PYP was really starting to pull the young creative class to Pensacola. That was right when the Maritime Park was kind of kicking off, and people were debating whether we should do this type of thing in our community. So I think we've accomplished a lot of those goals. There are tons of young independent, creative folks that live in Pensacola now. I see them walking up and down the street every day. Right across the street from where we are now is the Bodacious Brew, and right outside, I mean, people are sitting out there every day doing work, talking, having lunch meetings, having power meetings, and it's not 60, 70, 80-year-old people doing this. It is 20, 30-year-old folks really driving the community forward, and I think that's a really neat vibe. Yeah. With the architecture here is amazing. I mean, the building that I'm in now is, I think it's over 100 years old. They've redone it, but we have something very special here that a lot of communities around the world and around the country especially are trying to emulate and trying to prefab, but we have the real thing. I think Savannah is a really good correlation. I think we have that type of feel. We've got a little creativity. I think that's growing. We have a lot of arts in this little community. I also think another area would be Charleston or New Orleans. I mean, those are three very clever, close, very old historic communities, and I think we have the potential to rival those communities over the next few years. One of the things that I'm kind of in the back of my mind trying to do is to shed a car. We are a 2-car household, and I feel like if we could be a 1-car household, it would really free us up to do a lot of other things. I mean, it's pretty expensive to have 2 cars. And always in the back of my mind, I'm trying to figure out, how would that be possible? How would he be able to go to work? How would I go to work and then take her to school the other direction? So if we live downtown, there are a couple schools downtown, not the schools that, I mean, not a school that I think that I would choose, but yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, that's a big, challenging question. I'd love to live down here. We just have to figure out how to get her to school. I love being able to walk. I mean, I pick up my daughter from dance class at the Cultural Building, which is 1 block away. We walk after her class back over here. We go to the trailers, we have lunch, we come back. She hangs out here for a little bit. We can go to the park, which is right next door. I can do everything with her right here, and she enjoys it. Just yesterday, we stopped in Case-Eye Gallery and spent 30, 45 minutes looking at the different artwork. You know, and for a 4-year-old, that's a long time. But she enjoys it. I think she's excited about being down here. I can see that she's touched or moved by the vibrancy of this little community. So Pensacola, when I'm sitting with my grandchildren, I see from Cervantes to the waterfront a wonderful abundance of housing that young and families just getting started, and then also, you know, people who have the means to have the higher end homes. I see a lot of opportunity for people to get to work, get home without having to have a car. I see schools. I mean, we have an amazing, Everman's is an amazing grocery store. Yeah, thank you. There is so much potential for our waterfront to grow. Beautiful parks along our waterfront. I mean, I think that's really the next generation. And being able to go sit and have picnics out on the waterfront. You know, there's a lot that goes into thinking through what the next, you know, gosh, even getting her into college. What's college going to look like in 5, 10 years? I mean, I think we have a major turn because of technology into what we're going to see in the future. I think I can't even think about what our grandchildren are going to, I mean, my grandchildren would be like. But technology is going to make our community so accessible and efficient. And I think there's a couple things we have to do before we can get to that future, and they're very little things. Adequate lighting in our community, on our streets at night. We really need the lighting perfect. I mean, it has to be right, so people aren't afraid to walk down the street. Putting people first before cars, I think, is really important. We've always been a very car-centric city, and you know, I looked down Palafox yesterday and it was wall-to-wall cars. And I think people, if we can take this little jump from our cars first to putting our peoples and our pedestrians first, we're gonna see a turn and see a way for our community to kind of come together a little bit more. I mean, as simple as changing the light structure so that pedestrians get to cross the street and don't have to wait 5 minutes or 10 minutes before they have the opportunity and they get the walking light. You know, these are very small. You know, having enough trash cans downtown to handle all of the new trash that's made because of all the new people that come to the area. You know, these are very small, but they're steps that we need to take. In the future, I can see an amazing growth to the downtown area. We have Palafox, and then we have the historic district. But to the west of us is a ton of potential build out for housing, and not just high-end housing. You know, there's so many opportunities for housing that's affordable in that area, and not low income either. I mean, there is the need for affordable housing for a workforce, and right now in the 2 to 3 block range, there's not that much available. I mean, it's one of the things we struggle with. You know, there's not enough housing that's of the right caliber for a workforce. I think one of the neat ways that we could achieve that is to create some type of transportation, an easy public transportation system. Even if we started with like a bike path that went from maybe St. Michael's Cemetery on the neutral ground, as we call it in New Orleans, the neutral ground, that's already there to A Street, create a path on that so people can take their bikes to work. That would be an amazing step to just allowing us to expand the scope of our downtown and expand the footprint of our downtown. You know, I think 10 years from now, we should really have a streetcar that does that, some type of trolley system that goes back and forth. There's a lot of housing on that side of town. There's a lot of potential workforce housing on that side of town. And I think that if we kind of start thinking of the scope of downtown as beyond Palafox Street and start thinking of the east-west corridor as where we're gonna put that workforce, we're gonna see a lot more companies and major corporations come into the community that, you know, want to be here but need the workforce. They need the people. And those are two things that we're battling right now in the community. I see us as a really, I mean, if you look at New Orleans, you have a downtown, you have a streetcar that takes you all the way up through Central Town, through Uptown, through the Garden District, all the way uptown. I mean, it's amazing. We have a very similar shape to our geography of downtown. And if we use that to our advantage, we can have a major, very quaint, very urban community and attract the creative, high-end jobs that we're looking for. We also have the opportunity to create a beautiful community, and I think that's beautiful for everyone. I'd like to see much more public transportation. I think that's really important and key to creating that community. I think I use TED a lot, TED.com. I go there and watch all sorts of different lectures, and you know, you look at that and you see other countries throughout the world who are making great strides in new urbanism and bringing people from the suburbs into our downtown communities. It's happening all over the world. We're going to see that happen here. Really, I mean, I go back to the most important thing we can think about in the future is connecting our downtown with transportation. It's got to have an inexpensive form of transportation. It has to not use too much energy. It has not to use gas and fuel. And we have to find a way to create that so that people can get around a major downtown area or semi-major without having to have cars and without having to have the burden of where to store a car and paying for a car and living in a car and the dangers of driving a car. All of the countries in the world that you look at that are experiencing the growth of their cities, they're really having to think through these types of questions. And then where do you put those people? You know, are they in buildings? What kind of buildings? You know, how do you bring food to that area? You know, there's some beautiful things that are happening throughout the world, and I think if we just take some time to look at other areas that are doing a good job, I think we could really apply a lot of that to our own community.